What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hollywood Tales with my guest, Joe Praino. What's up, man?
How's it going, buddy? Thank you for having me.
Dude, we hung out in your new neighborhood.
Yep.
I don't want to say where we hung out.
Yeah, thank you. I have a rule on my podcast ever since I was in Venice for a really, really long time.
Yeah.
And I throw out a hot take a time or two on my sports podcast, and you would be amazed at how triggered some people get. This guy, when I used to talk about where I lived, goes, "Not only did I find your address, but I know that with my rifle from the top of the Irwin Hotel, I could kill you coming out your back door."
Fuck?
I was like, okay, I'm never fucking telling anybody
Why
where I
was
live.
he so angry?
I did I went out. It's crazy. Sports podcast. I go off topic a lot, but like I think we were talking about the Kaepernick thing or whatever, and I started shitting on the military or MAGA folks or whatever, and he was just like, I think he was a vet, and he was like,
is it a live podcast?
we go live
was
on
it
we
live?
go live on YouTube, yeah. But like, I got a DM like on my Twitter like a week later, and he was like, "Oh, you think it's fucking cool to talk about the military? Like, I'm a trained sniper, and I know I could watch you walk out your door, and I could hit you from the top." And I was like,
That's
"All right,
worse than Will Smith.
yeah." So I was like, from now on, we always used to like go like live from Venice, California. Now when we do the podcast, my buddy, my co-host, moved back to Cincinnati during the pandemic. Now he just says from Southern California, Joe Praino. We don't even give it like
That's wild.
the locale. Yeah.
He said, because I live like catty corner, whatever you call it, from the Irwin.
Yep.
I'm not going to tell you where.
Yeah. I used to
I could
live.
see the
I
Irwin
used to
from, like,
live
from where
right
I
by Sidewalk Cafe.
Yeah.
You know where that
Yeah, you
tattoo
told me
shop
that.
is? Yeah.
That's
And he was
wild.
like, I know. He told me everything. He was like, and I think he was in the Midwest or something. He's like, I set up on the Irwin. I got a shot right down Speedway.
Dude,
All
you
you gotta do
should've
is come out your
reported
back.
this
Yeah.
guy.
I was just like, this guy's not fucking.
No, you report people
Yeah.
like that. That's like, I mean,
That's what everybody said. Like, oh fuck, give that to the FBI. I was like, this dude's just
I would
trying to scare me.
I would have reported that fucking guy because that means that guy can fucking hit anybody from anywhere.
Yeah. He probably
you're a
doesn't have.
comic.
He probably doesn't have a fucking sniper rifle. He probably wasn't in the military. His
Doesn't
dad was
matter. You
probably a
should've-
fucking GI Joe wannabe.
I don't know. I would have fucking, especially what's like with what's going on right now in America with
I know.
gun control.
It's
and
crazy.
people- mass shootings. It's fucking wild. Anyway, well,
So yeah,
glad
so
you're
we
alive.
hung out in my new neighborhood, which is somewhere in the Southland.
Nope, not even there. I'm gonna say East Coast.
Yeah.
Some of my best friends live in this neighborhood. I won't tell you where. It's a very closed off, tight knit neighborhood. And my best friend's wife was like, "Hey, there's a comic that you know that just moved into the neighborhood. His name's Joe. He's tall. He has a mustache. He looks like a cop." And I was like, "Joe Bartnick?"
Yeah. There's
And
two
he
of
goes-
us.
He goes, "No, his
That's
last name
not
was
it.
Bartnick. It was starting with a P. He was Italian." And I said, "Joe Praino?" And she goes, "Yeah, that's him. He was really nice with the kids, and he came over, and he's like the new neighbor." And I was like, "Oh, I love that guy. Why up here? Like, what made him come up here?"
Yeah.
I guess he just wanted to get away, and we don't have to get into why you
Yeah.
wanted to get away.
Yeah.
but
Just get away for a while.
Yeah.
Just go, new. I did the West Side forever, and I just was like, it's time for new digs.
Yeah.
Just time for a new vibe.
well, this neighborhood is very, like I said, it's very community driven.
Yeah.
They're all young families with young
So
kids.
many families. Like the
But young
yeah.
couples with young kids, and they're all like,
I feel like
Are-
I'm just the neighborhood uncle now. You're the guy too.
"I'm uncle number one."
Yeah, you're uncle number one. I'm your trainee. I'm in training.
Let me tell you, how
You
to
were
handle
deep
these goddamn
frying
kids.
shit. You were like,
Oh.
you were doing the whole thing.
Yeah, so my buddies have their house has like this outdoor kitchen. I burned my fingers doing it, but yeah, deep fryer, grill,
Outdoor
pool.
like industrial kitchen.
Straight up,
Double
like
deep
restaurant.
fryer.
Yeah, double deep fryer,
flat top, grill,
Yeah.
the whole
whole
vibe.
counter.
Yeah.
It's up like on this little terrace with a cabana. It's really beautiful. My buddy's an architect, so he did a really good job. He got bored during COVID, and he's like, "I'm
Yeah.
gonna build an outdoor kitchen." I was like, "Oh, okay," and he did.
You're like, yeah, put a double deep fryer in.
Yeah,
so
make
we
sure.
Can,
Oh man, we deep fry fucking everything. It's
Dude,
crazy.
we deep fried. You deep fried that crawfish. That was.
We deep fried. He deveined it and just like deconstructed the crawfish. Our friends ordered like 50 pounds. They had a New Orleans like themed Mardi Gras party,
which was awesome.
Which was
just
awesome.
a random day in May.
Just a random
Like,
day.
what does this have to do with Mardi Gras? Like,
kids
because
running
we went. They were
around.
like, we went to New Orleans one time, so we
Yeah.
figured we do this. I'm like, that's a good
They
reason.
just came back, not just, but
Yeah.
they were at Mardi Gras recently.
great.
They were like, "Bing, so they always have theme parties.
Yeah,
Everything's always a theme. With Brittany especially.
Yeah.
She themes it up. It always has to be paired with, and also like the drinks and the food. She's a great organizer.
Yeah.
Like almost like an events producer in a weird way.
yeah. And I'd been there the week before, and she mentioned you. She was like, "Do you know Ahmed?" And I was like, it's so funny because any other time I would have been like, "Yeah, I met him once," but I was there like. After seeing you twice in a week, we did the improv together. Then we did the Bronston Venice Marina Killer Shrimp. Yeah.
Killer Shrimp.
Venice Underground.
Yeah. Which is a great show if you're ever in Venice. It's at Killer Shrimp on Admiralty Way, I want to say,
Yeah,
in Marina
yeah.
Del Rey.
Yeah.
They used to do it at the townhouse in Venice, right under the Venice sign, and they moved it to Killer Shrimp, and it's a cool little almost like a New York style jazz club.
Yeah. And they got that little speakeasy room. It's like Killer Yacht Club. That whole like property. It's like Killer Shrimp,
It's
Killer Sushi,
this,
Killer
that.
Killer Yacht Club. And there's like people go, wait, in Killer Shrimp. I'm like, there's a little room. You like through the restaurant, you enter through like a wine library and shit like that.
Yeah, it's wild.
Pretty cool.
It's every Wednesday. Check it out. It's called Venice.
You killed it that show too.
So did you. That was a fun show.
That was a fun one.
I think the crowds are always pretty good there. The last space at Townhouse, my sets were always hit and miss for some reason. But this new spot, I don't know. I just feel like maybe the feng shui in the room or the energy. I don't know.
Yeah.
But such
It's
a fun
not
night.
the other show was cool because it was like all young people. You hang out after, you do the thing, but also young Venice, like they're too cool for school. They're like, we really like the show. It's like, oh, you could have laughed,
Right.
No,
They're like, no, we're judging.
no, it's not cool to laugh.
Laughing's for old people.
Yeah, in the marina,
We
old
take- we
people
take
laughing. Yeah,
So you're from New York originally,
I am. Yeah.
and you landed in LA 12 years ago, you told me?
12 years ago. In fact, June 1st will be my 12-year anniversary
Oh, okay.
in Los
Congrats.
Angeles.
Maybe we'll try to get this episode out.
Yeah.
Then.
So was in New York, born and raised in New York, born in the city, raised in Westchester. Started stand up there while I was in college and
What were you studying in college?
radio and TV.
Oh, okay.
So
Where?
at Lehigh University in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
I know Lehigh. I don't know it, but I know. So funny. I used to work with a comic who met his wife there.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, man. It's
Interesting.
Bethlehem, the home of Bethlehem Steel. Used to be
Lehigh.
the biggest steel.
I haven't heard that name in years, but my old comedy colleague I used to tour with, he said he met his wife there at Lehigh University.
Yeah.
He has a joke about it.
Yeah, it's like 2 hours outside New York City.
Yeah.
So I took a stand up class in New York when I was still in college. I was doing TV. I wanted to do radio,
Who
of course.
was teaching that class?
DF Sweedler.
And where is DF these
at the
days?
Comic Strip Live. He is still at the Comic Strip Live in New York. He still teaches the
Teaching
class.
classes?
He teaches the class. He has like a Tuesday night. I think he MCs every Tuesday.
And what does it cost to take a class with him?
I think at the time it was like $300 for like 8 weeks or something like that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. And
Do you feel like it helped you?
I mean, it helped me get like, I didn't even really like, I've never to this day had plans to do stand-up comedy. Like it was never a plan.
What was your plan?
I just wanted to do TV, radio. And then I was in college. My girlfriend at the time was like, we went and she was at Columbia. And we would go to a comedy show at the Comic Strip, like when I would come and see her in the city. I was like, this is pretty cool. And I was like, I feel like I could do this. And I was like, I feel like it could be.
Every comic says
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
I could do that.
I was like, I feel like, And then I was like, oh, it'd be a cool thing to try because, I'm trying to do radio. Like, it would be good to, like, get some sort, start telling
Which,
jokes.
by the way, you have a great radio
Oh,
voice.
thank you. I never thought I did. Like, and I feel like I grew into it. Like, in college, I hated hearing myself on the radio. But she was like, oh, they do a class. And she, like, got it for me as a birthday gift. And I did it. And it just, like, got me kind of started. And I was just like, oh, it'll just be a thing I do for shits and giggles, like, every once in a while. And then I just got the bug. I think she lives in Dubai now.
I just got back from Dubai.
Did you?
Yeah, I was in Dubai for a few days for the comedy festival. I've been there 1,000 times.
How was the Dubai Comedy Festival?
I went out there, was part of like a lineup of, I don't know, 10, 15 comics. So I only did 7 minutes
Wow.
each show. So I flew 16 hours to do 7 minutes.
Yeah.
But I also just wanted to get back out there after the pandemic. Like we've all been kind of like hunkered down for the last 2.5, 3 years.
Yeah,
and
it's crazy.
it was nice to just kind of like get on a flight. You know, I flew Emirates Airlines, which has thousands of movies and TV shows.
Yeah.
So I just stayed busy watching shit. And the food's pretty good on the flight. Car picked us up, took us to this little chic hotel.
You seem like you'd fit in Dubai. You seem like
I've spent a lot of time in Dubai.
yeah, I bet.
Yeah, it's not the city I would live in, but for business, or if somebody said, hey, we want to pay you $1 million in a villa to have your own show, I'll be like, fuck yeah, I'm going to Dubai.
Yeah, it sounds
But
like a good deal.
By choice, you know, I did it. It's
Yeah.
a small, it's like the whole like parameter of Dubai. Imagine like downtown LA to Santa Monica.
Okay, that's all of Dubai.
Yeah. And then like both ways. It's like a very small, it's a city. It's not a country.
Yeah.
But there's, you know, lots to do. And so anyway, back to you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I don't even remember where we were. But oh
We were
yeah,
talking
that was
about-
my ex girlfriend, my
Are
high
you
school
still
girlfriend.
friends with her though?
You know, we were friends for a while, and then one day I realized she had unfollowed me on Instagram. It's like Instagram's everything these days, right? Like somebody unfollows you on Instagram, it's like,
I
and
don't even track that.
yeah.
How do you even track?
It
who
was
follows
funny.
you
I
on
just
Facebook?
like
Does
I
a notification come up?
no,
So-and-so
I just
unfollowed
I
you.
forget how it happened, but then like I was following her brother, and then I realized like he unfollowed me. We had followed each other, and I was like, oh, that's weird. I don't even know how I noticed, but like I noticed he unfollowed me, and I was like, oh, I should see if she unfollowed me, and I was like, oh.
Did you ever like another girlfriend?
I mean, no. I mean, this was like,
Maybe
I mean,
she
this
saw
is
your lifestyle.
yeah, this is like 20. I mean, we dated 20 years ago.
But she
you know,
technically started your comedy career.
she technically started
She
my
paid the
comedy career.
$300
Yeah,
for
thank you,
the-
Kate, for starting my comedy career.
Hear that,
And
Kate?
yeah,
We give shout outs.
yeah, and I have no.
Not all exes, but
Yeah,
most exes.
I have no beef. I have no beef with her whatsoever. I don't know what the
Why'd you
beef
guys
is.
break up?
It was just, I mean, high school girlfriend. You know, high school
I
girlfriend.
think it's cool that she fucking forked out $300.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
started your
It was like a.
comedy.
I mean, she was the best girl. You know, it was just like high school girlfriend into college. You know,
If
I mean,
she-
I was gonna have one girlfriend my whole
If
life.
she's still single and hot, would you go back to her?
She's married. She has kids.
Fuck you, Kate.
Yeah, but her family was lovely. Her, you know, we
I
it
feel
was
like
great.
you fucked it up.
I totally fucked it up. Totally fucked
That's
it
what
up.
I'm getting at.
Yeah.
What happened?
I fucked it up. No, I was in college and I was like, what am I like? I wanted to fucking have sex with a second girl in my life. You know?
You should convert to Islam. You get fooled. That's so wrong. You know, there's a mosque right next door.
Is there?
Literally right next door. There's a like if you busted a hole through this wall, you'd go right into the prayer room.
That seems appropriate for this
And
place.
this place is an ex-rehab center.
Is it?
Did you
And
know that?
No. And upstairs they just have a bowl of weed, just
Yeah,
out,
roll your own
open, just
joint.
roll a joint.
And then there's like, if you've never been at Jam in the Van,
This place is awesome.
3384 Motor Avenue, West LA. They do indoor shows, outdoor shows. They record. It's called Jam in the Van because they have a tour bus that's renovated into a recording studio, and they have awesome bands come in. They go all over the country and do this shit. And then during the pandemic they had comedy, and then they just opened up this podcast studio. And by the way, Wolf Ramirez, our producer, I just want to give you one more shout out. Wolf Ramirez, our
Just
awesome podcast.
A thumb up from behind the computer screen.
Yeah, I'm trying to get a camera on him, but he
Yeah.
doesn't want to do it yet. Just for reactions and like, you know, I want to get some of these.
Yeah.
But Wolf does all our editing and everything, fucking subtitles, produced, videographer. So, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Wolf.
All right, so you do the comedy classes.
Did the comedy classes. Go back. I'm in college. I used to drive in and do these like bringer shows, like open mic type things, like I don't know, once every couple weeks or something like that.
In New York City.
In New York City, I would drive in from school, and
Did they
then
make you bark?
I barked for a while. The first
Tell people what barking is.
barking is standing on the corner with flyers and being like, comedy show tonight, comedy show. Who wants to go to a comedy show? Two for one,
a
blah, blah,
lot.
blah.
It's
And
a lot of
the
work.
first club that passed me ever was Boston Comedy Club, which used to be in New York City.
Yeah.
Down like I mean, I could throw a baseball from the Boston Comedy Club to where the Cellar is. I used to bark on that corner of McDougal and Fourth.
Yep.
And
You
then
never get past at the Cellar?
I just got past this.
Oh, you did?
That's
a big accomplishment. If you don't know what the Comedy Cellar is, it's literally the hottest comedy club in New York City. And to get past there when SD like gives you the
It's crazy because when I first started comedy, they did a bringer show at the Cellar. Like comedy was like dying at that time. You know, this is early
What is
2000s.
this? Okay.
Yeah, early 2000s. Comedy's kind of like that 90s boom is over. The podcast boom that happens like 10 years later. There's a decade there where it was dark.
Yeah.
And they were doing bringer shows at the Cellar.
Why do you think that was?
I just think it was like you had all that. You had that whole vibe of like every comic gets a sitcom. You know, it's like Tim Allen, Ray Romano,
You're
all that
talking
shit.
like late 90s.
Yeah, I'm talking like late 90s, early 2000s. Like, think about the early 2000s. Like, who came from that time? You know, like Dave Attell, Rogan, yeah. Like Burr popped on, you know, Chappelle and shit like that. But even that's like kind of later on. It was just like
Eddie Griffin.
Yeah, but I mean, there was just no one in clubs. There was like no one really going
because everyone was at home watching sitcoms.
Exactly.
Right.
Everybody had a fucking Comedy Central presents. Everybody had a special, and it just like wasn't a thing. And you know, the podcast I felt like brought back the club life. So I used to perform at the Cellar on these like bringer shows. And I would get a spot here and there occasionally, but it was like the vibe of like, oh my God, SD and like getting past like. It wasn't there. There was already like the comics table. That was all happening.
Yeah.
But it wasn't like, I remember being at the Cellar and not being like, this is the most important thing in the world. And then when it booms, it's like, dude, you're never working the Cellar again. And I never even thought about it. I never asked anybody to recommend me or whatever. I go to New York. My favorite club, in addition to the Cellar, now that I'm past, is the Stand. I love the guys at the Stand.
Patrick.
Yeah, Patrick and Chris.
Patrick is, you know what I like about Patrick? If Patrick, is it Milligan?
Yep.
Yeah. This guy's like 6'5".
Yeah.
6'6", red hair, like true Irishman. Patrick Milligan.
Yeah.
He's a big dude, but he's so fucking sweet.
So nice.
So nice.
All the people there have been nothing but nice to me. They let me.
The new club with the pizza oven
is
and
gorgeous.
all that. Yeah, they did a good job.
It's like more than a comedy club. It's like a great restaurant and a great bar, and they happen to do awesome comedy shows.
Yeah, if you're in New York, and they have 2 rooms.
Yeah.
Right? 2 rooms, like multiple shows. I remember going there before the pandemic. Patrick and Chris Italia, the owner, they used to give me spots there, man, like 3, 4, or 5 spots a night.
Yeah.
So I was walking out with like $800 a night.
They're the best.
Stand-up comedy.
They're the best. Honestly,
the same place.
Yeah, they're honestly the best dudes. I love Chris so much. Chris has like been so
supportive. Shout out to the Stand. Shout out to Patrick.
Go to the Stand in New York City. Like it's awesome. Chris has been so supportive of my career. They let me shoot my special there that I did at their old spot.
Okay.
And so when I would go back to New York, I was just like the Stand. First people I called, Gotham. I'd go to the comic strip where I started every once in a while.
Gotham, I love Gotham. I don't get a lot of love there, but who's the owner?
Chris. Another Chris, Mazzilli.
Yeah, Mazzilli.
Yeah.
Chris Mazzilli is one of the classiest motherfuckers I've ever met in my life. This guy's a GQ Vanity Fair.
Yeah, yeah.
The way he
Have you ever seen him not in a suit?
He's always in not only a suit, a fucking badass like tailored suit, like expensive.
I don't think I've ever seen him with his suit unbuttoned.
And he's a real handsome dude.
Yeah.
And I remember
like most Italian men, just sharp dressed and handsome man.
No, you guys have it together. And and I remember meeting Mazzelli, and he was always nice to me. I met him kind of indirectly when I was doing this the Sullivan and Son TV show that Vince Vaughn produced.
Yeah.
And we were all on tour with the guys and stuff. But Mazzelli, he's just always been like really nice to me and like respectful. He's like, you know, he's a businessman too, so he's like, "Are you gonna sell tickets?"
Yeah, yeah.
Or let me give you a Wednesday kind of thing.
Right, totally.
But I remember Chris Mazzelli one time. I said, "What's your worst like story that's ever happened in here?" And he was like, "One time a bunch of guys came in and they were like cackling and being loud, and my bouncers went over and said something, and they didn't comply. They went back over and said something. They didn't comply." I said, "What'd you do?" He goes, "I walked over, I tapped the main guy who was heckling. I tapped him on the shoulder, and I said, 'My name's Chris Mazzelli, ask around.'" and he walked away. I don't know what he said, like how he said it,
Yeah.
but the guy got nervous and looked over his shoulder.
Yeah.
Like, this is some Goodfellas shit. I
Yeah.
might get whacked.
And if you have the balls to even just say that, you know that like you don't need to ask around. You're like, okay, maybe I
He
don't.
just
fuck
said,
with
"My
this
name's
guy."
Chris Mazzelli," and the guy was like, "Who are you?" And he goes, "Ask around."
Yeah.
And he walked away, and I was like, "Did it work?" And he goes, "Yeah." They got up and they left. I mean, you know, it's like a scene out of The Irishman.
Yeah.
Hey, I paint houses.
Now you can't leave. You know, if they close the doors.
Lock the
now-
doors.
Yeah. Now
They're all
you're
staying
here
for
for
the
another
night.
fucking show. Here's the fucking after show starting. Yeah. So I'd always go to those clubs when I was in New York, and then you know, good friend of mine was like, "Hey man, I'm gonna recommend you to Esty." Mostly because he wanted to get me in at Vegas. He's like
Who's
the
the friend?
Eddie F.
Eddie F.
Yeah.
Eddie F. If you don't know Eddie
Yeah.
F.
I
Eddie
always
F.
the weird thing about the seller is like everybody wants a recommendation. You know what I mean? So it's like I didn't want to like throw it up, but like Eddie's like Eddie said you're the second person I ever recommended. The
Eddie
first one
F-
was Pete Davidson.
Eddie Ift is one of those guys who he doesn't recommend anybody.
Yeah,
Let's
yeah,
just say that.
yeah.
So the fact that he did that,
He did it
for
for
you
me,
too,
and I never asked him to. He's worked at the Comedy Cellar for 20 years. I never asked
Esty
him to.
loves him.
And so I was in New York recently, and he's like, "I'm going to recommend you to Esty. Maybe she sees you. Maybe she puts you on in Vegas. Maybe she puts you on in New York." I was like, "Okay, well, I'm leaving New York in 2 days." So I was like, "I don't know if, but maybe she'll see me the next time I'm here." He calls me back, and he's like, "She wants to see you tomorrow night, and you got to do 5 minutes." And I was just like, "Bro, you know how often do you do 5 minutes anymore?"
Never. I did 7 in Dubai.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do for 5 minutes.
Yeah, because you have how much material do you have?
Yeah, an hour and a half
Yeah,
of
so
like,
what
yeah,
are your best?
yeah,
You know, they always say like, do your Tonight Show set.
yeah.
Do your best.
I was like, I don't know what my Tonight Show set is. I called my manager. I was like, should I do? I did Just for Laughs a couple years ago, and I had a 5 minute set on that. I was like, do I just go back to that? She's like, that's old. Don't do that. And I was like, well, I don't know what to do for 5 minutes. So I called our good friends at the Stand. Shout out to Joe at the Stand, who's like the manager. And I was like, Joe, I need 5 tonight, like two spots if I could. He's like, come by, I got you. Did a couple 5 minute sets. Went over the next day to the Cellar. Did 2 minutes of my 5 minutes were brand new jokes that I had done twice. And I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but I did it. She loved it. She followed me upstairs. I've heard this saying, oh, she'll send you upstairs and you'll just sit there for a year not knowing whether or not.
Esty you're talking about.
Yeah. And Esty followed me upstairs and she was like, so you want to work Vegas? And I was like, yeah. And she's pulled out her calendar.
Do it in her voice.
She's like, oh, first she's like, good job. Go upstairs. And I was like, okay. And then I walk upstairs. She follows me. And I was like, okay, this is good because the last guy, she just let it. He's still sitting over there waiting to talk to her. So she follows me upstairs and I open the door. And she's like, so you want to work Vegas? And I was like,
No,
yeah.
say it like her voice.
Yeah, I was like, she's like, so you want to work Vegas?
Yeah,
You know? She's like,
it's Dracula.
Yeah, exactly.
So you wanted to go to
Yeah,
Vegas.
yeah. And I was like, yeah, I was like,
great, by
I was
the
like, I'll work wherever you want to have me. And so then I went back over to the bar where I had left my beer before I went downstairs. I'm sitting there, and then she goes over, sits at the comics table, pulls out a book, and she's like, Joe, come.
She's already scheduling.
Yeah, she goes, come.
She works like that.
Yeah. I sit down next to her and she's like, so how's your July? And I was like, it's open, like whatever. And I mean, honestly, one of the biggest thrills of my life were all the comics at the comic table. I remember Phil Hanley was there. He's a killer.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I guess this audition went pretty fucking, she's booking you right now?
Yeah.
He was like, this is unheard of.
Yeah.
And I was like,
True.
well, this is great. So I got a booking for Vegas, and it was a fucking thrill, man. I killed. I was so panicked about going over my time. My last joke, I had like 2-3 more punches left, but the joke I did got an applause break, and I was like, fuck it, I'm out. I was like, thank you, that's my time. And I left those last two
That did the
tags.
trick.
And
Yeah. Tell everybody like what you're, because I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah.
Tell me like some of the premises of your material.
So for that show I opened up, I talked about being 42, single, never married, no kids, do a whole thing about, being single, being an uncle, my
You have siblings.
yeah.
How
And
many?
I got 3 siblings, 2 brothers and a sister.
Okay.
and
where do you fall?
I'm second of 4.
It's
So
hard to be second.
yeah. My older
I'm
brother's
second
kind of a
too.
wild card, kind of a black sheep, crazy man. So I always kind of felt like I was like sort of the oldest because he was like not
let
trustworthy
me
with everyone.
ground this
Yeah, yeah,
family relationship.
yeah. And then, but forever it was just the three boys, first three. So I was like classic middle child. Then baby sister came along, and it kind of like balance some things out. It's like you're not the middle anymore. You're second of four. That's a whole other thing.
We have 6. I have 4 sisters
Wow.
and a brother. Yeah.
4 sisters.
Yeah, it was a shit show.
Yeah.
Total shit show in our house.
So yeah, I did some jokes about, being an uncle, being the last single friend, how all my friends, like I'm the guy they call when they need a night out, and
You're the scapegoat.
Yeah, exactly.
I used to always have my friends, and I won't name names, but they would call me up and say, "Hey man, I did this last night. My wife thinks I'm with
100%. Yeah.
I'm like, dude, don't throw me. I don't want to be associated. No, don't do that. They're like, just say yes.
Yeah.
If she calls.
One of the jokes I have is like, all my friends' wives hate me because they think I'm this bad influence, and I'm like, dude, I'm just a guy sitting at home trying to fucking relax, and every one of your husbands is like, dude, I need a night, and I'm like, you all every night somebody needs a night.
So I would tell my friends who are married who would try to use me as a scapegoat. I'm like, hey man. Don't put me in that situation because I'm not going to lie to your wife.
Yeah.
Or girlfriend or whatever. Like, I can't look at somebody in the eyes and say, oh no, well, you did this and didn't do that. Like, I think that's happened once or twice just because I didn't want the guy to get in trouble, but I don't like being put in that position.
Yeah.
And I think guys like us always get thrown under the bus as the scapegoat.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, Joe's a bad influence. I'm like, I'm a good friend. I'm a good friend because I'm not going to tell you that you were out of town for 5 minutes before your husband called me and was like, how do we get cocaine? Let's get cocaine and go bowling. I was like, what the fuck? That's the two things. First, your wife went out of town. The first 2 things you think of is let's get cocaine and go bowling. I was like, when I get a call from one of my married friends, I know I'm in for some sort of single guy Make-A-Wish evening. Sure. I got to do whatever this dude wants.
Right.
And it's like, they're always, oh, you're going to fuck that girl? You're going to fuck that girl? I'm like, no, she's fucking gross. Oh, come on, man. I'd fuck her. I was like, so go fuck her. I'm not going to tell your wife. It's all they want to live through you so hard.
There's a comic that does a joke about that. Who was it? I want to say it's Orny Adams. But he does a joke where he's like, oh yeah, dude, I could fuck her. And he goes, no, you can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's over. The ship sailed.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the shtick. I did the whole, personal. I was like, oh, do 5 minutes. That's personal. Do your 42, never married, no kids, uncle, blah 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 blah. Why I'm single, all that shit. And it all worked. And then my last joke is I do a joke about priests and sharks. I think you've heard.
Esty also likes humility. Like she likes people that are humble. If you come into the cellar cocky, she doesn't even care if you have. I think Chelsea Handler went in there one night claiming like she's Chelsea Handler.
Yeah.
Esty wouldn't put her on stage. She doesn't care about
that. Was the thing about getting past that made me it really did feel like a moment in my career because I was like a lot of big comics, sell out rooms or tour or whatever from whatever the thing that they were on or that they do, but they're not past here. And this is the big leagues. Like it's, it's like there's a lot of ball players out there, but like only so many get to the big leagues. It was like passing at the cellar. I felt like, okay, maybe I am doing this.
Yeah,
maybe I'm doing okay.
How many at bats do you get? Right.
Yeah.
So then you're embedded in the New York comedy scene, but then you pivot here.
Yep.
Now getting past the cellar happened recently or back?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So you were in New York.
I was in New York. Went back to New York at the end of April. Yeah, it was like early May when I got and I extended my trip a day to do it. Did it and like for 20 years since I worked there the first time on a bringer show and just never I've hung out in the room and it's so great the room upstairs and everything, but somebody goes, hey, I'm going to recommend you. I went, I did it. I fucking got it. It's like,
so you came to LA for what reason? To get the TV deal, to get,
you know what? I was working in New York for a long time, dating a girl. We were living separately and we just talked about like, we both kind of wanted to change of pace. She had a good friend who lived out here. I went to a wedding in San Diego and was like, I surf. This is dope. The weather's great.
Surf?
Yeah. Yeah.
Are you good?
I'm okay.
I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah. I'm okay.
You surf with Eddie?
I surf with Eddie, yeah.
That whole crew surfs, by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't like the pilot. There's a couple people in that neighborhood.
Yeah, yeah. I surf.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I started
You're
surfing.
A tall guy.
Yeah,
6'5"?
6'4". I started surfing in New York, and would go out to the Hamptons and Montauk all the time and surf out there, and worked out there for a couple summers, and then just like I went to a wedding in San Diego. God knows what month, and it was like warm, and I went into the water in my
How long is your
board
How
shorts.
long is your board?
My board that I ride mostly is like 6'3". I think it's 6'3".
Like a longboard, kind of.
No, it's like I'm a big guy, so it's like it's a short board. It's not a super short board. It's not like a.
I need to get back into it.
Yeah.
I haven't surfed or tried to surf in probably 15, 20 years.
Yeah, it's the best.
I have a board. I have a 6'9" Rusty.
Yeah, that's a great size for the waves out here.
Yeah,
It's like
for Venice.
Malibu,
Yeah.
Venice, all that shit. Yeah. So I just was like, I'm done with surfing cold weather and putting on a hood and booties and gloves and Vaseline to
Yeah,
surf
it's
in the
cold
winter.
out there, yeah.
And my girlfriend at the time wanted to come out here, and I was like, let's do it. And I would have loved to move to San Diego, but there's a great comedy scene there now. But when I
Yeah,
moved out here, it was nothing.
We were just talking about that. Faraz Ozel was here before.
Is he from San Diego?
He went to school there. He went
Okay.
to UCSD, but
Yeah.
we were talking about the comedy scene in San Diego at one point when it was dead.
Yeah,
But
nothing.
now it's thriving.
Yeah, I think there was just Madhouse when I first
Madhouse, yeah.
when I
And the La Jolla
first went.
Comedy Store.
And the La Jolla Comedy Store, which is awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was like, well, I can't move to San Diego. I guess it's LA. And I was like, LA has always felt like too clean, too nice, too whatever for me as like a visit, like I don't go. And then so I was like, well, I'm going to Venice. And I moved from New York to Venice and was like, I love this. This is the best
How
thing
did
ever.
you survive? Like, did you have savings? Did you get a part-time job? Did
No,
your
so
parents support you?
When I first got out here, I was working in New York. Like when I was doing comedy, I was like on and off. Like sometimes, I would do colleges and I would get a good run of comedy and then I would like find myself back at some shit job. And I was working like some horrible desktop. And then I started working, I would coach baseball. So I would coach baseball in the summers in the Hamptons and it was like very well
High
paying.
school?
In the summers, it was kids. It was like youth baseball camp that my buddy owned. And then I started coaching high school baseball in New York. And then I came out here and I got a couple of high school. I coached baseball out here for 9 years, high school, varsity high school baseball.
Is the money good in that?
Not great. But then
Not
it's
enough to stay alive.
no, it's good during the spring. You're making enough money to like get by. But then I would do lessons and I would like do clinics and do all the shit. I was coaching baseball, getting by. Used to book a comedy show in New York that they would pay me
You ever
for.
heard of Cooperstown Baseball Dreams Park?
Yeah,
My buddy owns it.
Really?
Yeah.
I have a buddy who literally just got hired to work there. He's like
Oh, really?
a director or
Like
something like
literally,
that.
my best friend owns that place. I
That's-
don't want to divulge his name.
Yeah.
He's
Well, we'll
really
talk
good.
about that after because
He's
he's
behind the scenes, but he literally. It's like, it's almost like it's Disneyland meets Willy Wonka for baseball.
yeah. It's
of
incredible.
kids
Thousands of
sign
kids
up.
go. There's insane fields, and you're in
Yeah, there's
Cooperstown.
like 23 baseball fields.
Yeah,
They're all
amazing.
It's funny if you look at it from an aerial, like view or picture, they look like crop circles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's awesome. And I worked in baseball for a long time. Like worked for a baseball uniform company for a long time, like selling baseball uniform events to leagues and shit like that. And then finally just like hit my stride, have a sports podcast, Dirty Sports, which since you're listening to a podcast right now, you can check out Dirty Sports.
Check it out on all platforms.
Dirty Sports kind of took off really quickly, and now now it's comedy only and comedy adjacent, like comedy podcast, comedy on the road, and here we are.
Who inspired you, like as a comic? Who inspired you?
The only reason I'm in comedy at all is David Letterman.
Oh, really?
Like I was like, I want to be David Letterman. When I was fucking in high school, I was like, that's my gig. I'm gonna go to school. And I'm just gonna go for radio and TV, and I'm just gonna be Letterman. And that's what kind of inspired me to start comedy too, because I read his biography that he came out here and did the store and whatever, and I was like,
I know his backstory, by the way, because Mitzi Shore told me.
yeah,
Yeah, Mitzi Shore said he was a weatherman in Ohio.
yeah.
He moved out to Hollywood in a beat-up old red truck with his dog. He had a red afro and buck teeth and a plaid jacket.
Sounds about right.
He used to host the original room every night. And then one day he said he was going to quit and go back to Ohio and be a weatherman. And I said, no, stay in L.A. You're going to be a star.
She was right.
And she was right.
And
And she also paid for one of his abortions.
wow.
He banged one of the Filipino waitresses. That's a true
That's
story.
a good Letterman story right
That's gonna
there.
go in my
That's a
book.
that's a good tale.
Sorry, Letterman. We don't
Yeah.
know each other. I've never met you, but we know about you. Mitzi told me.
So yeah, he was
I
my
love Letterman.
he was my idol. He to this day is my idol. Like I just his comic sensibility, his hosting, his everything.
When he got his show, apparently, rumor has it, or story has it, that he flew Mitzi Shore out to New York City, walked her up the CBS, whatever, building, the high-rise building.
NBC at the time, right?
NBC,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
There were like 60 employees, in their little cubicles working. And he goes, "Hey, everybody, this is Mitzi Shore, the owner of the Comedy Store. If it wasn't for her, none of you would have a job."
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And she said, "I cried when he said."
I never met Mitzi.
She was a beautiful woman, man. That woman, she literally changed my life. Like, she came into my life in 1999 when I was doing a show called Dublin's on Sunset Strip.
Okay,
A hot show we were doing. Everybody was coming through that show, and we ended up taking our show over to the Comedy Store. And that's when I met Mitzi Shore, and she was so nice and kind to me. I've talked about it on podcasts here before, but I did a set. It was Sam Tripoli, Brett Ernst.
Oh, all my favorites.
Dane
I fucking
Cook.
love those guys.
Jay Davis was hosting.
Love Jay.
And then myself. I just threw myself up in the lineup because I was producing it.
Yeah.
And I got big laughs when I was talking about being Middle Eastern and all this. This is pre 9/11.
Yeah.
She came up to me afterward and she goes, "Hey, you're really funny. Are you Arabic?" And I said, "I'm Arabic." She goes, "Oh, where are you from originally?" And I said, "Egypt." She goes, "Oh, you're Egyptian? We used to be your slaves."
Thanks,
She's
Mitzi.
Jewish.
Yeah.
And she walked away.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, I guess I work for you now."
Yeah.
Like,
How the
then-
tables have turned.
right, how the tables have turned. And then the next day I got a call from the booker, Duncan Trussell. I don't
Yeah,
know if you know him.
yeah,
He used
yeah.
to book the club. He said, "Hey man, Mitzi wants to make you a paid regular." And I was like, "Oh," he's like, "She really likes you." And then that's how Axis of Evil started.
Mhm.
And yeah, she was very...
Your name on the wall there.
My name is on the wall at the Comedy Store, above the main room on
Twice.
the Sunset Strip.
Twice.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that's awesome. She's one of those star
You never
makers.
met her, though.
Never met her.
She just...
But
she-
it's like
she
you
has the
hear
ability-
Mitzi, Lorne Michaels,
Yeah.
Esty. It's like
Some of these people just have... I feel like I have that, and I hate to age myself, but I've met a lot of comics that I've helped out. I never made them stars, but I connected with them before they became stars,
Right.
and I gave them work. Sebastian Maniscalco, Whitney Cummings, Eric Griffin. I mean, the list goes on and on.
I haven't heard of any of those people, but
Oh, you're welcome.
I'll Google them.
I've always just I meet comics, and then it's funny because in the comedy world, let me ask you something. Comics are like, we're different sort of artists and beasts in the sense of there's really no camaraderie. There's really no, for the most part, it's not a team sport.
Yeah, it's very much a solo.
Right.
Solo.
So you
sport.
never know who's helping you or who's
Yeah,
trying to fucking
totally.
sabotage you or
Totally.
who's talking shit about you or who doesn't want you to make it or how come he got a special and I didn't.
Yep.
Or he said, she said. It's a really, catty kind of world. Like, how do you navigate through all that?
It's funny when I was
I've
in
had
New
a hard
York.
time
When I was in New York, I was the worst networker ever. I had very few friends in comedy. I just felt like I growing up being an athlete, like playing sports, I was always like, you if you're good, you're gonna get in. You know what I mean? And so in comedy, I was always just like, just be funny, and eventually, and it's like so not that way at all. You know,
It's
you got to
called
kiss.
show business
Yeah,
for a reason.
yeah, you got to kiss all the right asses. You got to whatever. So in New York, I had very few comedy friends, and I just did my own thing. For a while, I had my own variety show in Brooklyn that I would put the few people in comedy I liked up. I worked with a bunch of a little writing team of guys that weren't really stand-ups, but really funny dudes. We created this dope variety show. And then when I came out to LA, I had a show in New York that was at a casino that I booked, and it paid really well. And I would just offer it to people here. I was like,
Which
hey,
casino?
it was at Empire City, Yonkers Raceway. Yeah.
Where is that?
It's just north of the Bronx. It's the closest. It's the closest casino to New York.
Oh, I thought you said L.A.
No, so when I moved out here, I still had a show that I ran there,
Oh, okay.
and they would pay me to book it, and it was a great gig, and it paid well enough. Where if you were in the city, it was if you were in New York City, it was the fucking best gig ever. But for LA comics, I would be like, listen, it's not gonna pay you. You'll get $600 to feature or $400 to host. But I was like, that pays for your flight. So go there, do my show, and then find all your spots. And I would just tell that to people I really liked. And then I started using it to my advantage. I told, the dudes who ran Comedy Juice, hey, go to my show. I told this person, I told that person. And just like, that was the thing that kind of got me in the door a couple places. And then it was, oh, and he's fucking funny. Right. And once you're in the door and they see you're funny, then shit just starts to happen. And I made way more comedy friends out here than I ever did in New York. When I broke up with my girlfriend and I moved out here with, a buddy of mine in in Venice was like, hey, dude behind me is also a comic and he's like renting his garage. And I was like, dude, I don't want to fucking live in some comic's garage. He's probably not funny. He's probably a shithead. And he's like, well, his name's Lachlan Patterson. Look him up. Yeah. Lachlan. I looked up Lachlan. I saw his Tonight Show set. I was like, oh, he's fucking funny.
I'm not like into men.
Yeah. But I know. It's the worst,
this
dude.
Guy, Lachlan Patterson. Look this guy up.
Yeah.
He's 6'6"?
Yeah, he's like 6'5", I think.
He looks like Aquaman.
He looks like he's a chiseled, handsome man.
Chiseled, blue eyes.
Yeah.
Like chiseled.
Like model looking dude. Yeah,
great fucking hair.
Now he grows the hair out. He did the whole fucking thing. So
But super nice.
The nicest. Canadian.
Is he Canadian?
Yep, Canadian.
That's why, eh?
Nicest dude.
I didn't know that. I didn't realize he was Canadian.
So I look him up. He's funny. My buddy introduces him to me. He's like, hey, yeah, you're a comic? Oh, cool. I have this garage. We're renting it for we're doing some work back here. So as long as you can put up with the noise, I'm like, dude, I just got to have a relationship. I need a place.
This is Lachlan's garage.
Yeah, this is Lachlan's garage.
Is this post-kid?
This is pre-kid. This is like probably 8 years ago now. Okay. 10 years ago, maybe.
He's such a sweet guy.
And I moved in with Lachlan, and that was like my gateway to Lachlan, Eddie Ift, Bronston, Jay Davis. I met through those guys, who's always been awesome to me and giving me spots forever. And doing his show at what was the one he did at the bar recently? No, it's like what was it on Melrose? Oh, he did Forever.
Yeah, it was called. I did it a couple times.
Yeah, I did his show.
Right on Melrose.
Yeah.
It was a sports bar.
Yeah, I did his show there. That's where I found my manager. My manager found me at Jay's show. Really? And it was just like
manager to this day.
To this day, yeah. Randy Siegel.
Randy Siegel. I love Randy.
She is the best. I'm going to do this again because, I love my manager. There's not a lot of people who can say that. I love Randy Siegel. She is the best. She's like my business godmother. She's like my business fairy godmother.
Look, if you have somebody out there that really wants to get behind you, stick with them.
She is so supportive and such a bulldog.
And you'll get poached by other bigger agencies and people. And it's, grass is always greener, but I've always been told, hey, Ahmed, we like you, but you're unmanageable. I get that a lot. Unmanageable. Canceled.
Yeah. Well, Randy's the best because we'll have knockdown, drag out fights, and she'll be upset for a little while. I'll be upset. It's
I saw her at the Improv recently.
Yeah. Probably when I was there. Probably the night we were there.
Rick Siegel, is that his name? There's a named Rick Siegel.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of Rick Siegel. Sorry, Randy Siegel.
Siegel.
Are they related?
I don't think so. No. She's the best though. She comes to all my shows. She does all the things. She's gonna listen to this podcast. She watches. She listens to my sports podcast twice a week.
Shout out to you.
She is the best manager in the whole fucking world. I'll people always go, oh, you'll move on to bigger. I'll never leave. I might get a fucking agent and do whatever, but Randy Siegel will always be my manager.
If somebody can manage you, and kind of play a little chess
until she drops me. She'll be my manager.
Or she drops the ball.
Yeah.
On a couple.
No, she'll never do
that.
Not for me. She'll never drop the ball.
What's coming up for you? What's next for you?
It's funny because this move to the neighborhood that we talked about, I was just I am taking a step back from everything. So I'm just gonna I'll be on the road a little bit. We're going to Cabo. Eddie and I are going to Cabo in the beginning of June.
Are you doing Manny Maldonado's?
I don't think so. It's through the dudes who run Grand Comedy Club down in Escondido.
Oh, okay. I just came back from Cabo a weekend.
I think there's a couple Cabo comedy shows all of a sudden.
Manny Maldonado, who's going to come on my podcast soon, is one of the. I call him Machine Gun Manny.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's great.
You know Manny, right?
Yeah.
He runs a. It's fun. It's a fun gig. You're in and out.
Yeah.
It's at a,
So down there, and then just like on the road doing shows here and there. Got my Vegas dates from SD.
Does Randy get you gigs, road gigs?
Mostly I do the road gigs, mostly myself. You get here and there.
So you do all the outgoing.
Yeah, and then like
That's
every once in
another
a
thing.
while,
If you're a comic, don't rely on your manager or agent to get you gigs. You need to get on the phone or email or DM these clubs, and you just need to I probably reach out to 50 clubs a day.
yeah.
I might get 1 or 2 responses.
And I'm the worst. I'm the worst. Like I've always been the worst comedy networker. I just like
Well, it's a lot of work.
it's a lot of work, but
It's a lot of work.
I shoot my shot every once in a while, and you get booked. All of the people I just named though, Lachlan used to bring me out on the road for years. Eddie brings me out. Eddie Ift, another one, is just like the best dude. He brings me out and he's like, I don't want you opening for me. I'm only gonna bring you places where I think they'll headline you. They'll see you kill. They'll headline you. It's already worked.
It's funny because when we saw each other up in the neighborhood, I asked Eddie to come do the podcast.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, he was kind of like, he's always a little bit like
Squirrely. Yeah.
And I asked you, and you're like, I'll be there. What time? You put in your, you're like, there was a difference.
Yeah. Well, you've always been. It's funny. Like I've met you, I don't know, a handful of times over the years, and every time I've met you, it's funny because like you'll repeat yourself, but like every single time I met you and done a show with you, you're like, bro, you're so funny. How do I not know you? I'm like, well, you've said this 3 times now. But
I'm sorry.
No, but you've always been so complimentary of me whenever I do stand up in your presence.
You're funny as fuck.
Yeah,
dude.
and I just like appreciate that. And so when everybody like we talked about all the networking and like who you know and whatever, but like the people that stand out to me in comedy are the people that are just genuinely like, hey man, I think you're fucking funny. Like it's kind of it doesn't happen a lot. Everybody, like you said, it's like it's a solo sport. So we're all like kind of like, do I tell somebody that they're funny? Do I not tell somebody? A dude, like a girl, like
I'm
whatever.
okay with it.
Yeah,
because I've always like I have my comic, side of my brain, and I have my producer hat that I wear. I think I'm a better producer and a cheerleader than I am a comic.
Yeah.
Although I have funny stories and I can hold my own on stage, but I really like to nurture. Like I have a little bit of a Mitzi Shore in me.
Yeah.
Where I see a comic and I see the potential there, and then I just want to nurture that potential for some reason. It's maybe it's because I'm a Cancer.
Yeah, I'm a Cancer too, buddy.
What's
yeah,
your birthday?
July 5th.
June 27th.
All right, here we
All
go.
right, here
Coming
we
up.
go.
Coming up.
Too sensitive and emotional guys.
Yeah.
That should be the name of our podcast. Let's do a podcast called
We should just do comedy cancers.
Comedy
And
Cancers.
multiple meanings.
The cancers of comedy.
Yeah.
You want to tell us? We're going to wrap it up. You want to tell us your best Hollywood tale?
Sure. So I've been like racking my brain because I'm like, I don't have the great, like, found myself in the chateau doing coke with Slash or anything.
It could be funny. It
Yeah.
could be dark.
Well,
it could
this
be
is my
related to anything.
Yeah. So this is my like the moment I knew I was like, and it didn't even happen in Hollywood, but then the moment I was like, oh, LA is different from New York. When I first moved out here, I moved to Venice. I was living on Penn Mar, right by like the gas station on like Venice and Lincoln. There's that Chevron gas station. Yeah. So I was like back on the east side. And I've always been like a sports networker, a terrible comedy networker, but like if somebody goes, "Oh, you're tall, you play basketball," I'm like, "Yeah, you got a game? Let's fucking play." So I somehow got roped into this. There was like a weekly Venice high school like full court basketball run, and I would just go like every Wednesday or whatever it was. So one Wednesday I am running a little late, and I get there, and the game's already on, and it's the thing, 5 guys are sitting out, they have winners stay on, that kind of thing. So I'm like lacing up my shoes and watching the game go on, and there's one dude out there who's like small. I'm like, this guy is fucking a clown. Like he's gonna get worked out here. But as I'm watching, I'm like, this guy has a motor. Like he is nonstop. He is running full fucking sprint up and down the court. He is in the mix for rebounds. I'm like, this little guy fucking works. So but I'm not paying that close. Then I'm like kind of watching the game. I'm watching this dude who's like, all right. And then I finally lace up. Game ends. They're like, all right, you're on next. I get in. We're all matching up, and I get a closer look at him, and it is Flea.
Oh, really?
from the fucking Red Hot Chili
How
Peppers.
tall is Flea?
Like 5'5".
He's that short.
Like he's short.
He can ball?
He
I actually met Flea once. I met
he
Flea
can
once.
ball, but like he balls because he's like Mr. Hustle.
And
He's
he's
got a little
scrappy,
jump shot.
scrappy.
Scrappiest ball player I've ever seen. And then like the whole game, I mean, he is stealing rebounds from me. I'm 6'4". Because I'm just like, do I box
hustles.
Flea out or do I fucking like?
Was he scoring?
He was scoring, dude. He has a motor. He was
hilarious.
making jump shots. He was scoring. It was like, you know, the little scrappy little putbacks and, you know, a little loose ball, pick it up.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And I was just like, that was
Flea he may have had a future in the NBA.
yeah. I think if he had been, you know, 6'4", he'd be in the NBA.
He's like the Spud Webb of rock stars.
And it was absolutely like, if you watch Flea play bass, it's like it's the same vibe. It's just like this erratic energy. Like he is vibing.
I met him once through Tom Morello. You know Tom Morello?
Yeah.
Tom Morello is a friend of mine. He actually did our first podcast, the Hollywood Tales podcast. But I met him. Tom used to do this thing called the Axis of Justice.
Okay.
It was Tom Morello, Serge from System of a Down.
Yeah. He lives up in that hood.
Yeah, Flea and a couple other people. And they kind of just got this band, like this makeshift band together, and they did this fundraiser charity thing that I ended up hosting. And I met Flea really briefly. I don't remember him being that short though.
I mean, I could be wrong. Maybe it's because it was
tall,
like
you're 6'4".
yeah, but he's not.
I don't think he's 5'5". We
no,
should
but
Google it.
he's not 5'10".
No, he's
No.
definitely short. But
Yeah.
5'5", maybe
5'6", 5'7", but short.
Probably
On a
5'7".
basketball court, he was noticeably short. In a pickup basketball game that was like a decent run, I was like, "There's a short dude out here, like this guy."
Who won the game?
If I recall, I think his team won because I couldn't guard. I was like, I can't fucking
Yeah, how do you
hand check
guard-
Flea. I'm just like, I'm gonna let Flea do his thing.
Yeah.
And I was just it was just like that was the moment where I was like, oh, I'm in Hollywood now. You know, like I'm not going to a basketball game in New York and
Playing ball with Flea.
playing ball with Flea. I don't even know who the New York equivalent of Flea is. I'm not showing up and the guy from The Strokes is at the game.
Yeah.
Or fucking. I don't know, Lou Reed back in the day. You're fucking just going, but you show up and fucking. I was like, Flea's running full court. Yeah, and I was just like, this is dope. I was like, I'm in LA now, and that was my first moment. And it's like, I don't know, that was I really felt like that was when I was like, okay, it's different here.
Yeah,
and so that was my Hollywood tale.
I love it. Joe Praino, everybody. Follow you on Instagram at
Joe Praino, JoePraino.
My name is Ahmed Ahmed. This is another episode of Hollywood Tales from Jam in the Van right here in West LA, 3384 Motor Avenue. Come check this place out, man. Just go to jaminthevan.com. Our podcast, Hollywood Tales, is up on all the platforms, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. This place has an indoor venue, outdoor venue.
It's pretty dope.
They just had Tiffany Haddish. Who else was here? Anthony Jeselnik. Yeah. Tom Arnold. I mean, there's the biggest comics come through here.
Huge names.
Huge names.
Huge names.
And we do our podcast right out here. So check this place out. It's really cool. Jaminthevan.com. Go to my Instagram, Ahmed Comedy, AHMED Comedy, for shows and updates. And it's been a pleasure, man. Thanks for making time.
Thank you for having me, dude. Appreciate it.
Come back again. We'll do it
Thank
again.
you.
Wolf Ramirez, Jake Cutler, Jake Trainer, Dave Bell, Jack Higgins, our creative director, and the whole staff here at Jam of the Van. You guys rock. We're out. Thanks.